Welcome to episode 24 of the Fitasylum podcast. We hope you're enjoying the podcast, guys, and we really appreciate all the feedback. Today, we're joined by Andrea. Andrea, how are you getting on?
I'm all right, thank you.
Good stuff, good stuff. So we're going to go through a few topics, but we want to kind of stick to like your fitness journey. We're going to stick to like what it's like being a personal trainer, because we feel like our students are really going to find value in that. So tell us a little bit about yourself, first of all, before we delve into the fitness journey.
I'm a late starter to fitness. I'm a hiker and a walker, and I've come from a completely different industry. Yeah.
Do you want to tell the listeners what industry that is?
So I was a funeral celebrant. Well, still am. Still do a little bit of that as well, which is basically somebody that delivers funeral services.
Nice. And when was your first interaction with fitness? So what got you into the industry? What got you training or thinking about health and fitness?
I've always been interested in nutrition and fitness generally for many years, but I think seeing fitness on a sort of a more routine and being more deliberate about it, I'd say, I think it was from working within the funeral industry. So although I've always liked hiking and walking, I've had dogs sort of all my life, so I've always been keen on walking. But when I became a funeral celebrant, I realised that particularly in the Northwest, the life expectancy is actually, decreasing rather than increasing. And, doing a lot of the people that I'd done funerals for, they died of like largely sort of preventable kind of illnesses and they'd had a long time sort of living with ill health. And I just thought for myself, I don't want to be like that.
Would it be correct in assuming these illnesses were stuff like cardiorespiratory diseases, obesity, or diabetes type 2, stuff that, like you said earlier, is preventable by being a little bit more conscious of what you eat and drink, as well as, regular exercise? Yeah,
absolutely. All of those. And as well, things like, using alcohol to excess and smoking related illness. It just made me much more aware of the level of exercise that I was doing and wanting to kind of really clean up my life and be a lot more focused on getting fitter. And so that became the beginning of my journey, which was maybe around 7 or 8 years ago.
And 7 or 8 years ago, did you have any specific goals around fitness? Did you have like a physique you wanted to achieve, a weight you wanted to lift, an event you wanted to attend? What was, was there any specific goals?
No, it was more that I just really wanted to increase my cardiovascular fitness and become somebody that could do a lot more than I was currently doing. Being interested in hiking, I guess I always wanted to sort of go up Ben Nevis, nice. Which I know that I wouldn't have been able to do quite a few years ago, whereas I did it a couple of summers ago, and it felt like a breeze, to be honest. It wasn't a huge
Which path
challenge.
Did you do?
I did the main path.
Yep.
And it still was, it still took sort of 9 hours there and back, but it was good. I didn't feel like, worn out from it or anything.
So is the three peaks on next? Is that
No. No.
Awesome. And what did you learn along your fitness journey then? So your own personal fitness journey over the last 7 or 8 years, what have you learned?
I think to just compare myself against myself, really, rather than looking at, there's a lot on social media, isn't there, about ideals and the things like you've seen people like lift these incredible weights or being at these like kind of really slim or very muscular. And I think it is just about judging from my own progress and where I've come from, that to me, and using like my starting point and seeing where I'm at now, that I've learned that is actually what's important. Just going,
So like understanding what is important to you intrinsically, so making sure that the goals you are striving for actually mean something to you.
Yeah, rather than being goals that I've just sort of
that kind of like
found. Yeah.
kind of like, I guess prerequisites for society rather than prerequisites for you. You want to make sure these goals are more applicable to yourself, which is amazing. And I think that's for anyone listening, that's, it's really important. I like to say it's you versus you, especially if we've got clients like my clients go into like weightlifting or powerlifting comps. A lot of the time they'll go, I want to beat this person or that person, or I want to finish in the top 5. Often your first competition, you're not going to place top 5. So it's about making sure you beat your personal best. And I like to use that analogy for pretty much anything you do in life. Try and beat your personal best. Always just try and be that 1% better day on day. And it sounds like you've got a similar approach, which is amazing.
Yeah.
And then, so you've been in the industry kind of like your own personal journey for 7 or 8 years. What made you want to be a personal trainer?
So it was when I hit menopause really, and I found out that I was diagnosed with osteopenia. I'd started on HRT, and I realised that I needed to do strength training. And so I was originally thinking of just finding a PT for myself, and me being me, that wasn't good enough. I wanted to have all the knowledge.
Nice.
And so I looked into personal training courses because I thought, well, I don't know, I was at a little bit of a time as well where I was maybe thinking about a new direction, not sure, but I really wanted to just gain all of that knowledge for myself, and so I'd started to look at PT courses, but I wasn't necessarily thinking at that point that I wanted to be a PT. It was more that I just wanted to develop for myself, really.
I remember when you came on the course, you did it, and we did like the icebreaker at the start. You said it was more for your own personal knowledge.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting. Later on in the pod, we're going to get on to how you've actually gone into the industry and done so well. But just touching back on the course, how did you find Fitasylum and doing a course with us?
Yeah, well, I really enjoyed it. It was, everything ended up being completely different to what I sort of expected. I really liked the blended learning approach. That was one of the things that appealed to me about doing the course, to be honest, and the practicals and just the fun side of it. It wasn't all serious. So that was quite appealing, I think.
I think you got the most out of the course, to be fair, because you came every single day with questions. And I think if you're a student listening, go to the course, ask questions, and you would be like, instead of just going, okay, I accept that answer, you'd be going, well, do you want to show us? And I love that. That was so good because it was really helpful for the rest of the group. Was it
not just a pain?
No. I actually think that's the best way of being it. That's how I would be in a classroom. I would ask a million questions. I don't want to know just how to do something. I want to know why it's done like that. I want to know the history behind it potentially. And we had so many good debates amongst the classroom, and I think we had a really good group that would be able to debate because everyone was from different facets of life, fitness, health, age, background. Everything was different. It was really good debate, very healthy debate. And I think that really helped open some people's minds and eyes to different methodologies. And also, we could come and debate, and it was always, no worries, everyone's put their opinion across, fantastic. And then you can form maybe a new opinion or just be more informed, and that was the key to it. But I absolutely loved that you came with so many questions. Even in the WhatsApp group, you were asking questions, and I think you got, like I said, you got the most out of the course, which anyone listening, I would suggest you come to the course with lots of questions and don't be afraid to ask those questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you did so much of your own research, didn't you?
Yeah.
Which was fantastic. And if I gave you something to research, you'd come in knowing everything about it. And I think, that critical thinking is really important as we move on to the next topic, which we're going to talk about you starting out as a coach. So we've already mentioned, you said you wanted it for your own knowledge. What made you then decide to become a coach and a personal trainer?
So I think you really had an influence on that, Declan, because when we did the formal assessment at the very end of the course, you'd said to me, you could really see me being a full-time PT. And that really gave me like a confidence that I hadn't necessarily seen myself like that, because I still felt like I had that imposter syndrome, and I still felt like, I was a newcomer in the industry. So you saying that was a really big, was a very pivotal moment. And then when I came out of the course, I hadn't actually even got my certificate at the point, but I'd seen about the PT factory where I'm actually based now. I'd inquired with Ollie, And I was thinking, I'd messaged him and said, I'm not quite ready to actually start or anything, but, you know, can I come down and have a look? And he invited me to have a look at the premises. And the next thing, I was signing up and, you know, I began actually, like officially started at the PT factory at the beginning of June, but I had started with a client a little bit earlier.
No, and I think that's amazing. You know, for anyone listening, again, another huge takeaway from this podcast pretty much straight away is go and, like, if there's something you want to do, go and explore it, chase it. I mean, worst case scenario is you didn't like it a month or two down the line and you go back to your other job, or, you know, spend more time on that other job. So I think take those opportunities would be a huge takeaway from here. But just touching on something Andrea said earlier about with her formative assessment, I could really see her PTing. Your feedback for your level 2 was slightly different. There was a lot to improve on. And again, students could take away, even if there was a lot to improve on, you went away and did it. And you did so much research and you were like, you wanted to know the details of like, well, why was that a need to improve? Or how do I improve on that? And again, for students listening, your journey was so drastic in terms of how much you evolved as a coach throughout the course, and that's why at the end of it you know you just put so much time and effort into it that you developed into such a good coach, and obviously the PT factory saw that as well and they hired you, so that's amazing. What do you love most about being a coach?
Oh, definitely seeing the progression in clients. Absolutely love it. You know, it rewards me so much when they're so pleased with the results that they're getting. So, yeah, that's probably what I love the most.
And it comes across a lot when I speak to you via WhatsApp, where you'll send me the results of your clients, and I'm like, that's amazing. But you're so passionate about it, like you're so selfless with your client's goal. Like you're like, oh, look at what the client's done and how amazing they are, and you know, and you really, really invest in your client and like personally as well as professionally, which is amazing to see. And you can tell, you know, you do love what you do.
Yeah.
So do you want to tell people about the results you've got with this client? Because I think they're amazing.
Well, I've it's with a couple of clients now, but with one client, she's just, you know, she has like posture issues from her, the way she's been working for the last few years and so on. And we've really done a lot of work to kind of correct that. So she's so pleased with how like upright she is compared to when she came to me, as well as like physical, you know, like just sort of body fat loss. And then I have my other client, he's, you know, in the sort of month that we've been working together, he's like lost 5 centimeters off his waist. Wow. So that's a pretty good result. You can really see that now.
So we talked just on a previous podcast, the one that will go out just before this, about one of the most important thing for a personal trainer is to get results, and you're getting results, which, you know, is so good because you have to be at a good level to get results. But going into the industry, did you expect they were the clients you'd be working with?
No, because they're probably in a younger age bracket than I expected. Although in terms of being, you know, beginners to fitness, or at least they had the time of, you know, being into fitness earlier, and then they'd got out of the habit, so they were starting again, so to speak. So on that level, yeah, but no, because I was anticipating working mainly with older clients and with menopausal women.
Brilliant. And I knew that, and that's why I wanted to illustrate that point, that just getting out into the industry and working with clients is you might find a niche or an area of the industry that you really enjoy.
Yeah.
Would you say that's fair to say, Andrea?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it might change the products and services you offer. And I know we've talked on WhatsApp and off pod, you know, you might actually want to go down different routes now and offer different services through the experiences you've had. So, you know, I think that's amazing because you're always looking to develop yourself, your services. And would you say going into the industry was outside your comfort zone? Oh,
absolutely. Absolutely.
But and you talked earlier about imposter syndrome. How did you overcome imposter syndrome?
I think it was just do it. Don't think about it too much. It's like with, you know, joining the PT factory, and I was saying to some of my friends, like, oh my God, it's all happening so fast. You know, should I be doing it? Should I just be like putting the brakes on? But then I think the fact that I just went and did it, you know, if I'd have kind of like left it a bit longer, it might not have happened, and I would have actually lost confidence rather than So I think just go for it.
And then, anyone who does have imposter syndrome, you're only going to get better by being experienced or gaining that experience, but also developing your knowledge around that area over time. It's not going to come instantly. If you keep waiting for this magical moment, it's never going to happen, is it?
I think I do have a little bit of past experience as well that I applied, because when I became a journalist, I was a journalist for about 15 years before I was a funeral celebrant, and very much at the beginning of that, I had imposter syndrome. So I also, I was thinking to myself, I've done it before, I've been there before, just remember that it doesn't last forever.
I always say to all students, how much did you struggle at your job when you first started, and how easy is it compared to now? And they go, oh yeah, it's easy. I literally go into work. It's, it's like routine, it's habit, it's second nature to me. And I said, exactly. Personal training will be very similar. You will go into the industry, get experience and develop over time. You can't expect to be the best. The other analogy we use, it's like a driving test. Passing your level 3 course is like getting your driver's license. You don't actually learn how to go on the motorway, drive long distance, drive in general day to day until you're actually on the road experiencing it.
Yeah.
So, it's very much so, get out there, go and do it, get the experience. But moving on to the next bit is, what have you learned so far as a personal trainer and working in the industry? What have you learned so far that you think listeners and students could really benefit from?
I think we've kind of touched on it really, is be open to that you might change direction, and that what you set out, your idea that you're setting out with might not necessarily be what you end up doing, and maybe be a little bit flexible around that, rather than just thinking, no, this is my path. There's opportunities to be flexible, and you might develop something else in another area.
Yes, that old analogy of when one door closes, another may open. But also like being flexible, like you said, into other paths into the industry, and maybe being flexible in terms of changing your products, services and approach. So I think that's a really, really good feedback and something that you have learned. How hard was it to get into the industry?
In what sense do you mean?
So getting a job.
Well, I'm self-employed, so I guess maybe that makes it a little bit, I don't know, because I've
90%
never...
90% of PTs are self-employed.
Right, so. Okay. So, but I think, I would say that it's probably, I can't rest on my laurels in terms of finding clients. I think we've got to be, proactive in getting out there to find clients. So I don't know that at the moment whether that's going to be hard or not, I guess.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's particularly. It didn't feel particularly hard for me, but maybe
I would agree with you. You did the right thing. You went out there and got what you wanted, and it's actually quite easy to get a job in a gym, because ultimately, gym owners want people paying rent.
Yeah.
They want people coming in, because that's ultimately free money for them.
Yeah.
So they want people coming in. The difficult part comes in taking that plunge and building a business, doesn't it? And that's what you're doing slowly. And I think your approach of keeping your other job and building the PT up alongside it is a fantastic approach, and something that I'd recommend to other students.
Yeah.
What are you most excited for 2023?
Just seeing where things go, really. I've already learned enough to know that, it might not go the way I anticipated. So I'm just excited to see where I will be at in another 6 months' time, or in another 12 months' time. I mean, in August, like this time last year in August, I didn't even consider being a PT, even consider that I'd be doing PT training, never mind that I'd become a PT in a year. So much has happened in a year, in 10 months. So I'm just excited to see where things are going to go.
That is awesome. I love that kind of optimism, the many opportunities that you talked about, the energy, the positivity. That's absolutely brilliant. And then we ask every guest these questions. So one tip that you would give someone currently in education, and not necessarily on our courses, but just in education in general.
I would say leave your preconceptions at the door, because they might turn out to be misconceptions about the fitness industry.
We've never had something like that. That's a really good one. So leave your preconceptions at the door. Because
I think I had a lot of preconceptions about the fitness industry that haven't actually proven to be true. And if I'd have allowed them to take over, I may never have entered the fitness industry.
Nice.
So I feel,
You were very open-minded, weren't you?
Yeah. Yeah, so I would say, yeah, be open-minded. If it's something that you know, want to pursue, try not to imagine that all other PTs are going to be like this or like that, or, you know. Yeah.
One tip then for fellow professionals, and again, this could be for personal trainers within the industry, or it could be with professionals in general.
I'd say stay updated with research because it's changing all the time. And
such a good one.
Yeah, and one of the things I've noticed, you know, you can come into the industry as a new PT and feel that, well, I've not got the experience with clients, but one of the things that I think new PTs have got an advantage with is that they're up to date on the knowledge.
Yes.
And you see, you know, a lot of sort of old, like PTs have been in it a long time, not necessarily staying up to date with knowledge. So I'd say that would be
complacency.
Yeah.
I've talked about it on this podcast before. About 6 years into my PT career, I got complacent for about a year or two. And then I met 2 other coaches that came and worked for me at my gym. And they changed my perspective because, like you said, they were fresh out of university and college and they were so like up to date with it, and like they were really challenging me on my knowledge. And it was, you know, one of the best things that ever happened to me. You know, it really reinvigorated my passion for researching and, you know, going through that. So, you know, the complacency is massive. Andrea, you've been amazing. Has it gone really quick?
Yeah, it has. How long have we been doing it
20
for?
20 odd minutes. So,
right.
But just before we finish, where can people find you on your socials?
Okay, so I have Instagram, which is
nice.
Live Fitter Coaching. I've got a website which is
nice.
livefittercoaching.co.uk, and I'm also on Facebook.
Awesome.
Guess what? Live Fitter Coaching.
Good stuff. Well branded. Love the name. I love what you're doing with clients, and I hope you enjoyed the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Good, guys. Thanks very much for listening to the podcast. If you do enjoy it, please leave us a review, and please share this to your friends, family, and socials.